My Hero Academia, Chapter 225, Interview with a Vampire. So I thought that was a pretty cool title, because, Curious is kind of interviewing Toga, who ingests blood for her quirk. I don't know. I thought it was cool, but still a pretty good chapter in an arc that just continues to get better. A Toga-heavy chapter, but that's fine, because I really like Toga. I think she's a very interesting character, and the more we get into her backstory, just makes her all the more interesting. But other than that, let's get into this. So it opens up with us finding out that Deika City is very secluded, and this makes sense considering the stranglehold that the Liberation Army has on it. They're able to control who lives there, who leaves there, and who enters there. So that's how they've been able to maintain this perfect little corrupt paradise that they have, and have stopped the outside, Japan, the heroes, the police, the military, whoever else from finding out exactly what's going on here. It kind of reminds me of Whole Cake Island or Dressrosa from One Piece. It's like this one big massive area that's controlled by one single group, and all of the citizens within it are an army, pretty much, that live as a society. It's a pretty damn interesting concept, and it's one of the, if not the most impressive display of territorial power that we have seen within the world of My Hero at this point. So we see Redestro and Giran looking out from the tower, and it appears that Redestro has been reading these chapters along with us the whole time, because he knows too much. Maybe some stuff that he shouldn't know, maybe? I guess they've been keeping tabs on the League of Villains this whole time with the assistance of the Feel Good Inc. satellite, or maybe he somehow got this information from the data he collected from Giran, but he's able to recite verbatim what Dabi said in the Pro Hero arc about retrieving the high-end Nomu, and this allows him to deduce that they do not have Nomus at their disposal anymore, and we are in fact not going to see Nomus in this battle. So it's not really explained, or maybe it was earlier and it's escaping me at this moment, but I don't know, it just seems a little odd that he knows so much based off of so little information that he allegedly has. I suppose it was made public knowledge that All For One was responsible for the creation of the Nomus, or somewhat responsible for them, so he knows that, but all of the other stuff is a little too convenient, but I'm just suspending my disbelief here and assuming that it came from the satellite, or he just has his ways of gathering information. He's a pretty powerful dude. But the line that he says after this is the League of Villains without a Nomu is no more than a group of delinquents. And this finally made me realize why we are not going to see Nomus in this arc. And it's because the League kind of have to grow on their own. If they always have the Nomus come and help them out, then they're never going to really develop, and they're never really going to be a solid force on their own. This is kind of the heroes kind of developing on their own without the assistance of the pro heroes always coming in and helping them out. So if the top 10 pro heroes always came and took care of the threats that the younger heroes are, encountering, then it wouldn't really help them at all, and they wouldn't develop. And also, like I said in my previous reviews, if the high-end Nomus did show up, they would just slaughter everyone. Because like I already said, the one high-end Nomu, Hood-chan, was strong enough on his own to almost kill the top 2 pro heroes. So if we got 10 of them with all different abilities, I assume they would totally wreck the entire Deika City, at least in my opinion. Come on, who is really dealing with those things? But also another thing that I assume is going to happen is actually happening, and it's pretty cool to see it play out. So when Redestro revealed that they had over 110,000 people at their disposal, I assumed that, maybe that's a little over an exaggeration, but if it is true that means when the League of Villains does enter Deika City, it's going to be an onslaught of just mad people coming after them, and that's exactly what we see here, and it's pretty damn cool. It's almost like the League of Villains is playing a game and they're on horde mode right now, because everyone is going after them, and there's no exception. There's no demographic excluded from this army. We see moms and dads and kids, just everybody, people working in shops, everyone is coming after them, and they all have crazy quirks too. Just a quick glance, we see some of them can create huge mouths with teeth, these Pac-Man-esque creatures. Then we see some guys shooting Dragon Ball style mouth beams. Some guys have super strength where they could just throw cars. It's pretty damn cool what we're seeing here. I just can't wait to see this animated, because that's really gonna do this whole sequence justice. But it all makes sense. Like, they are covering their bases with the exposition in this chapter, so I'm totally on board with it. Because they say the hidden soldiers of the Liberation Army have been training diligently every day. So that means, like, this whole entire Deika city with all of the inhabitants under the control of the Liberation Army are all cohesively working together and training so that one day they can overthrow, I guess, the entire country and just control it and live the way that they want to and have the laws pertain to their ideologies. Because, I mean, that's what the whole Liberation Army is. They want to liberate people with special abilities, aka quirks, and they just want them to do whatever they want. Which, I mean, I personally don't think that would work. I mean, if you have all these superpowered people without any laws governing them, you're just going to have, like, all for one happen all the time. Like, you're just going to have these groups of people using their powers willy-nilly and just taking over the world by force. So now we're getting into the first big fight of this arc, and it is Toga against Kazuki. So we've got the two females going against each other. Yeah, that's fine. But it's not going to be an easy fight for Toga, because while Kazuki is very powerful on her own, she has a pretty good quirk, which we'll get into later, but she has the Horde with her. So when we see Toga, like, get the jump on Kazuki with her crazy assassin skills, it doesn't matter because the whole Horde is just right on her and, like, launches her right into that ramen shop, I guess. And we're also getting, like, a lot of information on Kazuki in this chapter. So it turns out her liberation code is Curious, and I guess this is just her villain name, and that's pretty cool. Kind of reminds me of Gentle. We're also getting her quirk, which is Landmine, and anything she touches turns into an explosive. And they're not very strong, but it makes up with the numbers that she can produce. So I kind of assumed it was something like this when we saw it in the previous chapter, but the way that her fingers were in, like, the box formation, I thought that maybe she had to single out something and can just explode it there, but apparently she has to make physical contact with something. So I guess in the previous chapter she had just touched that specific area of the ground and then left it as a trap for Toga to step on. And this is a pretty cool quirk. I'm down with this. But then again, like, it doesn't just pertain to non-living things. It's which I was curious about in the previous chapter. Because we're finding out that, yeah, she could do it on living things too. And while that seems overpowered, it's not necessarily broken the way that, like, Chisaki or Tomura's quirk are, because it's not powerful enough to completely destroy you. It kind of just gives a surface explosion in a way, which, I mean, it totally wrecks you, but at least it doesn't kill you. Because we see that when she activates the quirk on the Horde that she had touched, it just looks like it's exploding on the outside in a way. And apparently just her touching a person makes every single aspect of them into a bomb, because the blood that Toga takes from them and she starts drinking it, apparently that is also a bomb at the same time. Pretty interesting here, but yeah, we see Toga get completely wrecked by this. Like, I think this is the worst Toga, or should I say the most damage she has ever taken in the series so far. And now we're finally getting into Toga's backstory, or at least a portion of it. I assume we'll get the rest of it in the next chapter, but we're finding out that Toga is the eldest daughter of the Toga family. So I suppose that means she has sisters. We're also finding out her age, which is 17, and I mean, we all assumed it had to be around here. I mean, we weren't exactly sure, but based on her being the schoolgirl, it had to be somewhere from like 14 to 17, I guess, maybe 18. But, you know, 17 is pretty cool. So she's older than Class 1A and Class 1B. She's more around like third year or second year age. I'm not exactly sure what the ages are in Japanese schools, but it seems to be around there. Like, I think Mirio, when he was first introduced, was 17, and now he's 18, so she's around second year, third year age. And it's also revealed that Curious had actually interviewed her parents, and that she just disappeared after middle school graduation. So I assumed that was around like age 14, 15. I think it was 14 because that's when Izuku and Bakugo graduated from middle school at the beginning of the series. And we're also seeing like a flashback of Toga before she was crazy, I guess. Or maybe she was always crazy. It remains to be seen, but it appears that she was pretty sociable. She has like a whole bunch of friends. But then an interesting thing that we see in one of the panels of her flashback when she has like the black face is Izuku? I'm not sure who this is. It looks just like Izuku, but maybe it's not. It's like this guy wearing a suit with like blood coming out from his mouth, and has his fist cocked back in a punching motion. So is this Izuku, or I'm not sure. It's not really made clear. Maybe she saw Izuku before she encountered him at the training camp arc. I'm not sure what's going on here, but maybe one of you guys know. So apparently something happened to Toga after she graduated. Middle school, and we can only really guess at this point, but my guess is that she somehow got involved with like assassins or something. Because like it is said in this chapter, she is way too skilled for an average murderer. And we also see that when she's talking to Izuku, when she is in kami form in the provisional license arc, when she's talking about how her technique works, how you have to like make yourself invisible and silent, and whatever else she says. And then Izuku's so intrigued by the technique that he goes on to ask Shiketsu how it is done, and they're like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, dude. So this is like a technique that was obviously learned, and we see multiple times that she's able to like escape, like Batman style. You know, when you look away for 1 second, she's gone. So she somehow got involved with assassins, I guess. It could be similar to the movie Leon the Professional, if you've ever seen that. Natalie Portman and Jean Reno. Pretty good movie. But like when Natalie Portman was like a young child in that movie, she just, I don't know, by chance runs into Jean Reno, who's like her neighbor, and as the movie goes on, she just becomes like this assassin by training with him. So it could be like a similar story to that. Maybe somebody found her, or maybe something happened and it like broke her mentally, and then she went down the path of assassinry. I just keep saying assassin because this like is where her expertise comes from. At least that's what it seemed like to me. But before I go further, I just want to touch on this Izuku looking guy for 1 second. So maybe this isn't Izuku. Maybe it's just some guy that she knew in middle school that she really liked, and maybe he's like defending her here, or maybe he's fighting her. I don't know, something. But it could be possible that she likes Izuku because he reminds her of this dude that she used to know. I always assumed that she loved Izuku because Stain deemed him worthy, but it could be a lot more than that. We're also getting some of Curious's backstory here, because we see a flashback of when she was younger, as well as when Redestro was younger, and he had a much different haircut. And we're finding out why she's like so, I guess, curious, or like crazy curious, because of what he wants her to do. He just says, like, you're not going to be able to move people's hearts by just reports and records. You got to go in there. You got to look at their faces and get interviews and stuff. That's how you really manipulate people. So I guess she took this to heart and just went over the deep end, and then just, I don't know, became the way that she is now. Could be something similar to Toga's backstory in a way, since she seems to relate to her. Because she says, I know it well, your pain and suffering. So there was clearly a breaking point in Toga's life that turned her to the life that she is currently living now. And speaking of lives, they're talking about what exactly is a normal life. Well, that's like the first thing that Toga says. And that's a good question, because, you know, like, what is a normal life? Is a normal life what we see in like TV shows like Modern Family and other things like that? Is that what a normal life is? Because if that is, then I certainly don't have that. But then Toga goes full Toga mode, and she says, you know, the Liberation Army, you're trying to make the world a wonderful place, and I love you very much. So this is pretty much her declaration of wanting to kill her, because we find out when she loves someone, she wants to kill them. And then below that, we see like these two, I guess, flashback panels of Toga, and like the mask, or the implied mask that she was wearing, like the metaphorical mask, the black thing that we saw on her face, it looks like it's breaking and coming down. And then we see her holding like a bloody box cutter. So I guess this is the moment where she fully broke and descended into madness. And then after that she says, I also live a normal life, you know. Not really sure what that means. You know, Toga says a lot of ambiguous, cryptic, psychotic stuff, so this is probably no different from that. But that's where the chapter ends, and pretty damn interesting. I can't wait to see like the full backstory of Toga. At least I hope we get it, and this wasn't just like an appetizer for us to like get hyped up about. I hope that it's revealed in the next chapter, because you know, like we've been talking about, through this arc so far is that Toga is one of the few villains left that we haven't gotten the backstory on yet, because we just got Tomura's backstory, so let's get Toga's as well, because it seems to be rather interesting. So that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. Let me know what you think about Toga's backstory. What do you think is going on with her, and where do you think the fight with her and Curious is headed? Also, if you liked the video, please give it a like. I also have a Patreon. It gives you access to a Discord server and a weekly Q&A video that I do in this channel every week. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.